Hi, and welcome to SBOM Europe Live webinars, number 3 in this series. I'm happy to see you these last days before Christmas. I'm Ole Johansson. I'm a co-founder of SBOM Europe, and along here we have Anthony Harrison. Who are you?
Hello, everyone. I'm Anthony Harrison from the UK. So I'm the founder and director of APH10, and I help people manage software risk using software bill of materials.
Yes, and I'm in frozen cold Sweden, but I don't like to show it, so I have another picture in the background, just to avoid that. The agenda for today, I guess we cleared the first bullet point here. We're going to run a short SBOM update and then start a session together with our guest, Johanna. So a few updates. Anthony, do you want to start here?
Yes, so I think we've mentioned this before. FOSDEM, which is the big, large European open source conference in Brussels at the beginning of February, they've now published their agenda and schedule. On the Sunday, the 2nd, there is a dev room dedicated to SBOM, software bill of materials. There's a lot of sessions there, and it would be great to see people there. I'm sure there'll be lots of side conversations as well. So it's great to be educated, look at experiences, and look at the future direction of some of the standards. So looks a very busy schedule, and you'll see. I think Ole and myself will be both there most of the day.
I really look forward to that week. In addition, the Cyber Resilience Act, the EU legislation, has now become an active law all over Europe. And basically, the first 3 years is the time you have to CE mark your product and get them to comply. And from today, we calculated that it's about 1,086 days, counting holidays, Christmas, and everything. I think during our recent SBOM update that people can find on YouTube, we calculated that if you remove holidays, the annual vacation and all that, you had around 700 work days to get things fixed, right? Yes. Cyclone DX, the OWASP project for creating a syntax for bill of materials that can contain hardware bill of materials, crypto bill of materials, and software bill of materials. They have an ECMA standardization group that not only maintains the Cyclone DX core specification, there are a few other working groups as well, one for the Transparency Exchange API, one for the package URL and versioning spec. And now we added a new task group called the Common Lifecycle Enumeration, which will find a way to capture and enumerate lifecycle events for software, including end of support, end of life, end of security fixes, and that kind of events. This is a missing piece in the software industry, and I'm really looking forward to the output of that working group. And as always in Cyclone DX, this is an open working group. So if you want to join, just contact me or anyone else in OWASP, and we'll send you the links you need. And with that, let's move on. Johanna, welcome.
Thank you very much. I hope you can hear me. I had some challenges today with the technology, and I have some reserve systems here. So if I disappear, just stay put and I'll come back.
It's always good to have backup. You work with cybersecurity, but who else? What else do you work with? I know you're an author.
Well, yes, I'm a bit of everything. I'm a sociologist, basically from beginning. I'm interested about how people cooperate, what motivates people and groups, how society is organized and conducting things. Is it the technology that is leading our behavior, or is our behavior leading the development of technology? That's the classical sociological questions. But the bad thing is that very few companies and organizations employ sociologists. They hardly know that we exist. So I had to kind of come up with other stuff to make my living. So I've been a journalist and a strategic communication specialist, and then later on I also studied law and became a lawyer. So that's what I do.
Amazing, amazing. So we've been meeting a number of times. Both you and I are active in the Swedish Cybernode, which is part of the EU Cyber Security Competence Network. You spoke at my conference earlier this year, and we've been discussing different laws almost every time. Why do you think this happens with this massive regulation?
Yes, it's interesting. You can see the number of different European Union acts and laws and regulations coming out of something that's called the cybersecurity framework in the coming 3-4 years. So some of these regulations are already in place. And it's not like all the regulations are hitting everyone. There are different pipelines here in cybersecurity for health and for banking, for example. But it shows the number of regulations there. And the reason why we have this is that European Union really wants to have a stable common market. It's market regulation. And because without rules on the market, it's impossible for example, small companies or small organizations to function on a market. So we often say that the European Union is regulating the market to stabilize it and to make it robust against threats, while in the US they talk about the business. And that is basically the philosophical difference between how we look at these questions.
But I've been in the software business since being like Anthony says, a young lad, right? And I created small software. I sold larger software systems, Unix systems, other things. We never had problems with regulation before. Why do you think we need it now? There's a massive amount of regulation coming out.
Well, now I need to ask what slide you're showing again, because I don't...
Still showing the same blue boxes.
Okay, you can show the next slide, because we are actually getting there. We have this exponential growth of the technology going on, and many experts say that the AI development will be a bigger change and revolution than internet was. And for some parts of the society are still struggling kind of getting on internet, and we're already leaving that, going into this AI paradigm. And the other thing that happens in our society right now is the speed of development. It's going so fast. We know that some of the regulations, they are old already when they are like 6 months old, because the technology is developing so fast. So we need to take a totally new grip on what is a law. We cannot regulate everything in detail and write in the legal text technical solutions, because they will be old tomorrow or next month. We need to have legal texts that kind of they aim to protect our society, our technology, our digital systems and structures, and the users, of course, the people need to be protected as well. And that the laws are kind of, the European Union cyber framework is defining the what we need to do, but not the how. The how cannot be written in the laws because the development is so fast. And that's probably one of the reasons why we need so much new regulation and new ways of putting it to be able to have some kind of structure and order in our market.
Do you think we should have more about principles rather than, you know, I notice you say it's the what rather than the how, but do you think we should have more about the principles that make it independent of this solution? Because the regulation, there's massive amounts of regulation that's costing businesses a lot to keep up to date. Should we have a few high level principles that can then adapt with the technology, or can adapt with the technology?
Yeah, my answer to that is both yes and no, because I think we already have some new principles coming in, and you can find them in all these regulations behind them. And one is like the risk-based approach, that you really need to know the risks outside in the society and the whole European whole market, you would say. And follow those. These risk assessments have to be done frequently. They need to be fresh. And also you need to understand the vulnerabilities of your own business, your company, the critical business processes and data flows, your critical IT systems and OT systems and all the components there, and how to support the networks. All that stuff is being said. It's like a principle in the regulations. You have to do that. And also another thing that regulations are addressing is that you need to understand who you're dealing with, your supply chain understanding, and you need to be sure that your suppliers also are protected and will protect their systems, so they don't let some malware, for example, to your systems. So these are kind of principles there that have been developed now, and they are behind most of these regulations. But same time, if you are looking for liability, and that's what we lawyers always do, it's really hard to get liability if you just try to lead with principles. You need actually have legal paragraphs and some kind of sanctions connected to them to be able to lead the behavior of the market.
But I really like it when you talk about mapping components, and that's what Anthony and I and the SBOM Europe is all about. Mapping dependencies and components in our IT infrastructure or products we sell. But with all this regulation, do you really think that people will be compliant from day one, that the Christmas 2027, we will only have cyber secure, fully DOS attack enabled devices on the market, devices that can survive DOS attacks, I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I understand what you are asking, and no, I don't think that the Brussels and European Union is looking into that. I don't think anyone thinks that all the companies and organizations will be compliant the day they are supposed to be. All this, what is happening now, this is about changing our ways of looking at the digital development. The digital structures are all over in our life. I mean, as consumers, as citizens, you cannot hardly do anything if you don't do it on digital ways, and we are developing new digital ID systems and payment systems, and we have autonomous vehicles driving already in several countries and so on. And none of this is possible if we don't protect the digital structures. And that's what European Union wants us to understand, that we need to change our approach, the way how we think. And for example, when we develop new things, when we start innovating new things, we need to get the compliance thinking and the security, cybersecurity into those processes from day one, and not like today have many companies have a legal department somewhere on the top level, and they get the legal questions when everything is already done, and then someone remembers, oh, we need to check this compliance too, and then the legal department will say, no, you cannot go out with this because you are breaking that law or this act, and then there will be just internal problems in the organization. We need to totally change the way how we work in organizations, and getting the legal people in those processes as business partners from beginning, as well as the engineers need to understand some of the basic legal principles, and as lawyers we need to understand something about the basics about the IT and OT as well, and work together. And I think that's what Brussels really is trying to do with all these regulations, changing our way of thinking about our digital society.
Yeah.
And I just would like to add two things that I think are quite interesting. The one is that Mikko Hyppönen, the guy that I'm referring to in the slide, he was one of the grounding members of the F-Secure 1991, one of the oldest and maybe most known companies in cybersecurity. And he has this, he's still there. So he has made a long career in one company. And there is this Mikko Hyppönen's law, and he says that smart, whenever we do something, when we create or innovate something that's smart, that means vulnerable. And I think that is something we really need to start thinking, and not always sell the new digital solution as, oh, it's so easy and it's transparent and it's free and everybody can use it. Yes, it can be that, but it needs to be secure. So we need to work with the vulnerabilities. That is one part of this thinking.
There's a lot of talk in LinkedIn and other forums, mailing lists, about this regulation coming, the massive amount of regulations, where the people kind of throw out that US innovates, they move forward fast, and as you say, they protect the interest of the businesses, where EU regulates. But can we find some sort of balance here to make it easier for stand-ups and startups and new companies?
I think we can, and we have to do that. And maybe we should try to see ourselves as part of the same market in a way, both the US and European Union, since we are so connected in so many ways. I mean, our government departments, they use cloud solutions that are American, for example, often in many countries, and things like that. When you look at the technology, we are really tangled together. So we really need to work with this together, and we should learn from the American way of supporting the startups and helping them, same time as they might learn from our way of securing the market and the society for everyone, for all the customers and citizens and clients.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things you're seeing is EU, US, other countries, they're all doing similar regulation but not the same. Would it be nice? how close can we get such we get common regulation, so all global businesses don't have to try and keep abreast of 50, 60 different regulations. How do we get harmonization? Is it possible to get harmonization of regulation in this area?
I think so. If you look at the traffic, for example, traffic regulations, that was when cars came on the roads first in the 20s, 30s, there were no regulations. And then suddenly, we started to regulate, for example, with safety belts and things like that. And then we started regulating on which side of the road you drive. Well, some countries are still doing it on the other side. But there's been a kind of a consolidation of regulations because of we need that in traffic. And today I have a Swedish driver's license. I'm from Finland, and I can drive. I drive in most of the European countries. I've driven in Asia, in US, and I can drive. I can read the traffic signs. I know the rules, basically. There's small differences, but not so much. I think we can get there with this kind of regulations as well, definitely. But how long time that takes, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that's part of the idea with basing things on horizontal standards, and those horizontal standards will be acknowledged. There are talks between EU and US about harmonization of some of the horizontal standards. For the US is working on a trust mark of some kind for IoT products, and the idea was to make that compatible with the CRA.
Yeah,
but as you say, it'll take time.
We already see this, for example, with the NIS2 directive, that it is actually, and also the NIS1 before it, based both to ISO standards and to NIST from US. So there is a lot of work going on, kind of harmonizing the standards, for example, so we understand how they function together. And then I have to say that European Union, sometimes it's good to have strength and a big organization to, just deciding something. For example, with these chargers, we had all these million different kinds of chargers. And remember, suddenly we started getting this C1 into all the new devices. And it's wonderful, isn't it? And that was just a decision EU they took. They got tired of the jungle of different chargers, and now it's easier.
But one of the things we also have to be is we can get some harmonization, but we also need consistency.
Yes.
And we need to ensure consistency of compliance or consistency of non-compliance needs to be global, such that if you misbehave in one market, you're also going to be penalized for misbehaving in a different market, rather than trying to find a market that's less regulated or easier
Yes.
on you.
Yes.
And I think that's where I think we do have, traffic regulations are different in different parts of the world. Some are stricter than others. And security is changing so fast. We need to actually try and ensure the regulators can keep up to date and make sure they are consistent. And that's a real challenge.
That is a real challenge, and also educating our politicians so they understand what's the stake here.
Yes. Yeah.
Here in Sweden, going back to my question, we have a huge problem with direct import from Asia. Post offices are filled with packages of unsafe electronics, and there are reports of fires and other things based on this, because they're obviously not following any European legislation or Swedish legislation. So we'll see what happens here. During our discussions, Johanna, we discussed, from where I come from, there's a lot of discussions about shifting security left, making sure that security professionals are involved from the whiteboard phases, design phases of our product all through the life cycle. But during our discussions, you have mentioned that the legal team also needs to be there. Do you think we can find a common ground here and talk the same language while creating products?
Yes, I think, because we have done it before. We got the quality people into the product teams some decades ago, and then we got the sustainability people talking about the climate and talking about the social justice issues. And that was another language again, and they found their place in the product team. And we have had the labor rulings and those guys in the product team looking into that safe environment in the production area and so on. And that was in the beginning a different language, but then everybody learned that as well. So I cannot see why it would be difficult to get the legals in this to find a common ground. But it's a leadership question. The leaders, the managers have to lead this, and they have to pick people and tell them that they need to work together. It's not going to happen by itself, and it's not something that happens at the coffee machine. You need to have some kind of structure in this when you change the ways of how the product teams are working.
Yeah, I mean, I find that question rather interesting, because in software development, we have adopted agile technologies with a team that pretty much set their own priorities. They handle the backlog and have a product manager that helps with priorities for new issues. How we include security and legal into that process is, I think, a question we have to come back to, because I don't think it's as simple as saying from above that you have to find ways of working and integrate into the existing processes as well. This is interesting.
Yes, but I think that the common ground is being found when you, from beginning, talk to each other and don't start the development until you are sure that everyone kind of understands each other. Then, of course, the specialists can go and do what the specialists do. I'm not saying that the lawyers have to be there when the programmers are programming, but the lawyers should be there in the beginning before they start programming, and to be sure. For example, if we take the AI Act, to be sure that we are not developing a product here that somehow violates the AI Act and its protection of customers and citizens. So it's a little bit like, and we are learning from each other in the beginning, and then all the different professions will do what they do, and then we can do some, have some common ground meetings during the way, and in an agile way we can change and adjust things if we see that we are going to the wrong direction. But it's good to have the lawyer there in the middle of the process to check that we are on our line and are not leaving the line.
Absolutely, and this applies, I think, to the life cycle of the project. Whenever you add new functionality or you add new components, you need to have that compliance discussion.
Yes. So
we had an additional question here from outside of the EU. Anthony.
So I think, the COA is clearly focused on the 27 states of the EU, but obviously the other countries outside the EU are affected. And I think the question we often had, and I had a discussion this morning, it was, how do people become aware of what's going to be required? Because clearly outside the EU, none of the countries have any influence, but they are affected. So how do we ensure that other countries outside the EU are on board and ensure that their regulations that they may be developing are compatible with the CRA. How can we develop that well, it goes back to harmonization, I suppose, but yeah, what are your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts are like I would compare this to customs. For example, that the companies outside of EU, they have to understand what kind of customs we have, or what kind of border regulations we have, and there are several institutes that can give that information to those companies, and we just need to add for example, CRA there, and explain that now we have this digital CE labeling coming up, and your product, if it's not compliant, it cannot get this digital CE label, and then you cannot sell it in the European Union. And I don't see it so different from the other regulations we have for the import from outside of European Union.
The problem here is most software imports are digital, and it's not boxes moved around. So it's crossing the border in different ways. Right?
Yeah, that's true. But what I'm trying to say is that we need to use the same channels we are using also for the other regulations. It can be information through some kind of business organizations, embassies, universities, and we have, of course, big companies who are active in different continents also, and they should inform their branches outside of European Union what's going on here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's very much an education piece here.
Yes,
it's a global education because I think everybody would agree that what the CRA is trying to do, its reach is quite extensive, but it's trying to set a very a minimum baseline that all digital products should achieve, and if that that should hopefully be of benefit globally, but it's obviously it's going to take time, and there will be some tweaks.
And I think we have actually, European Union has quite a lot of dialogue with countries outside of European Union about different digital issues, and it's possible to raise also these things in those talks. I'm thinking about, for example, the import of chips that we need for our products in European Union from Singapore and countries like that. So we have channels to discuss with them already, and if we add one more thing on the agenda, I'm sure that works.
Yes.
Yeah. I like those finishing words. We need global education, and this will take time. Things we're all working with. Thank you, Johanna, for participating. And since I think it's time to move on, we realize that the holidays is coming up for everyone. If you see this video before the holidays, happy holidays, and play around with SBOM and SBOM tools during the holidays to learn more. But after the holidays, there's a lot of events coming that we feel are interesting. We already talked about FOSDEM, but FOSDEM is now part of something called the Open Source Week, which includes a lot of different events for all kinds of people. While FOSDEM is very technical, the Open Source Week covers legal, covers compliance, and many other issues. On that website, you can find a lot of these events that used to be called the FOSDEM Fringe events before and after FOSDEM. So there are seminars and workshops organized by Eclipse Foundation, ORCVG, by Linux Foundation, and many others. So please visit that website and see what's going on in Brussels the last week and the 1st of January and the first days of February. Our next SBOM Live webinar will be exciting. Can you tell us more about that, Anthony?
So this is John Meadows, who is from City in London, a very strong advocate of open source and DevSecOps, and is a key member of the OpenSSF, and making the financial world more secure. So we're going to discuss his experiences in making the software supply chain more secure, what he's learned as he's been trying to do that for the last couple of years, and work out how we can benefit from his experience going forward. So it should be a good session.
Yeah, and registration is open at sbomlive04.eventbrite.com. So we're looking forward to seeing you there. And with that, it's time to wish everyone a happy SBOM holiday. Please follow us on YouTube or on LinkedIn. We also now have a Blue Sky account at sbomeurope.eu. We'll see where that goes. Thank you so much, Johanna, for your participation these last few days before Christmas. Thank you, Anthony. Anthony, do you have some final words to our audience?
No, I think 2025 is going to be exciting. I think it's going to be very busy. So as we start the journey in earnest. So yeah, look forward to being part of it.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for having this great initiative you have with SBOM Europe.
Thank you.
Thank you, Johanna.
And goodbye for now.
Thank you.